welcome to History Meets Prophecy. I'm Elder Michael.
And I am Officer Charmaine, and today we have a special guest.
Hi, and I am Ezekiel.
Thank you. All right,
Excellent.
Charmaine, turn it over to you to get us started on this exciting subject matter.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, first of all, I just want to welcome everyone that is joining us today. And as you see, we are talking about, was Christianity invented? Now, for those of you who are our diehard troopers, you were with us probably just over a year ago. We spoke about the invention of Christianity. And this is such a huge subject. And we decided to focus or isolate and really focus on one particular area, which has, come up from time to time over the last little while. So we hope to bring some clarity to that. And again, we just thank everybody for joining us today. So please do not forget to like, to comment, to share, to subscribe. Remember, this is an interactive session, so we are looking forward to all of your questions, your comments, your concerns. And if you would like to join the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries, please, there is a link in the description box below. So please click on it and somebody will get back to you as soon as possible. So without any further ado, was Christianity invented? Put in the chat what you think.
That's right.
Okay, over to you, Elder Michael.
Yes, so we could begin with our first slide if you want, because we have to see exactly how these things were manifested and to come to a sense of appreciation. And one of the reasons why we're doing this, like I like to remind folks, is that we're not here to criticize anyone. We're here to tell the truth and to provide evidence accordingly. So again, move up to the next slide so that we could have a better understanding. These are the intros. So maybe the next one as well. We want people to understand that we're living in an era that is not conducive to our success, our progress. And we have to understand why. We have to see who is behind all of the challenges that, or majority of the challenges, the most important ones that we're facing today as the children of slavery. It is important that we analyze the circumstances and out of that process, because remember this, right? If you are not feeling well and you go to see the physician, you go to your family doctor, the first thing they're going to do is to inquire, to do a diagnosis of how you've been, what you've been consuming, what did you eat for breakfast and for the last week or whatever. And then after they've taken a look, they will start to see the reaction of the intake, and then they can make a prescription. We are the doctors of the royal law. We examine carefully how things are done, and then we offer the solution. And we look, our diagnosis is based on the spirit of truth. And this is very important that we understand these things at the beginning. Shami, you want to add anything to that, or is that good?
No, absolutely. And I think it's very important, as we stress time and time again, we're not just doing this just for our health or, just to play around. It's just such a very powerful and important aspect of our identity. And that's really what it boils down to. When you read through history, you'll find that there is so much conflicting information. And that's because nobody wants to tell the truth. That's why there is so many different versions in history of the same thing. So when you really look at it, then you can actually decipher exactly what's true and what they were trying to do, right? So this gives us an opportunity to delve into the lies and go into the tangle skein of all the lies and misconception that's out there, and actually bring out the truth, which can never be hidden. The truth would always reveal itself. And that's the most beautiful thing. I'm really, being part of this nation under our Elder Shadrach, under our priesthood, Supreme Council, you find that, they are so generous when it comes to telling the truth and sharing this information. You know, nobody gets paid. Nobody's, you know, gets a Rolex or a plane or anything just to put this information out there. We do it because it's a passion. It's so deep, you know. So any kind of support you can provide will certainly go a long way to helping us continue our journey in unraveling the truth and bringing it to all those that need to hear it. So
It is very powerful because it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage when you are what should I say? We are not the people at the top. As a matter of fact, we are so far below in the eyes of the world that you don't even see us. No one recognizes us. So in the face of adversity, we stand up and we tell the truth and we're confident about what we do. And not only that, we challenge anyone, whether they're dead or alive, to prove us wrong. That's what
yes.
we do. So the first point is, how is it that this term, Christianity, first of all, never existed until about the 16th century? And secondly, because they're using the book of the Israelites, the Holy Bible, authorized Holy Bible, how is it is not mentioned there? How is it that even Jesus, the Christ, never heard of it? So these are questions we throw out for the public to investigate, or those that promote this spiritual dynamic in such a very powerful way. Because as you know, when you look around you today, all over the world, it's Christian, Christian, Christian. You know, as I think Ezekiel, it was it you and with Priest Freddie that said there are 8 billion of people that use this terminology. Again, we're not here to criticize. We just want to make sure that there's a clear explanation and a
And
clear understanding.
so before you go, I know Ezekiel, you're going to jump in. One thing that you mentioned, Elder Michael, and again, have to be extremely clear that we are not here to criticize. We are absolutely not. And you know, people might think, well, why are you always picking on Christianity? Well, you know what? Christianity would never be an issue if they weren't using our book.
Bingo. That's
That
my
is the issue,
right.
right? We're using our book. And so we have an issue with that because you have gone out there and deceived the entire world, telling them lies, you know, misappropriating our identity,
Yeah.
taking away our laws, statutes, and commandments, removing us from the things that we are supposed to be doing, worshiping our God. And in its place, you are taking our book and putting a false God in front of it and claiming that this is your book. And you go in there and you have it in all of your establishments, yet still you are so far removed from that book because that book was written about my people, for my people, about my people. And that's why we have an issue. This is why we bring this up time and time again. We
Let me
don't
put it
want
to
it.
you, Officer Charmaine. That's great, but I got to put it to them, to the audience, in a way that sometimes they have to think like this to understand. How would you like it? And this is to the audience. If I broke into your house, I killed your father, I raped your mom, and I raped your sisters, and then I took your brothers and cousins and enslaved them for 400 years. How would you like that? And then I took your own personal private diary and I changed all the pictures and added my pictures and sold that knockoff version for a lot of money. How would you like it if I did that? Not just overnight or for a week or a month, 400 years and counting that I'm doing this. That is the challenge that we face today. That is what we have to think about in order to come to grips with the reality of this situation of the term that is called Christianity.
Yeah, and I completely agree. That
Yes.
was highly graphic, really graphic. It was like, oh my gosh. Anyways, but you
We
know,
have to
you
come
make
down
some
to their level.
you make valid points. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes that's what happens. I mean, but you make a really valid point, and that's I think this is the genesis of why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't touch our stuff, we wouldn't have to put it out there that
If I
you
may
guys are
quickly come
doing.
in, if I may
Sorry.
quickly come in, yeah, you guys are very passionate in it.
Sorry,
I
go
love
ahead,
the
young Ezekiel.
first. I do want to say though, it is my honor to be here. You know, a mere man among giants. in the nation. And I love what both of you are really saying about even this program, History Meets Prophecy. To my understanding, we study history to understand why we live in the why we see the modern day as it is right now. It helps us understand things. It helps us explains why does the world look like the way it is. And so when we have the chance to actually explore it, deep and comb through it, we can learn and see why people believe what they believe. Where do all these practices even come from? And I like what Elder Michael said. Doctors of the law. And here in this segment of History Meets Prophecy, we're trying to prescribe the medication, the solution towards fixing this disease of this mindset of I hate to say it, but Christianity is that you go through the history, you look at it, you see what all the things they've done, all the atrocities, all the malicious intent, all the propaganda, the advertisements, the lies, the poison, the cancer. And so the only thing left to do is have an Israelite surgically remove all this, this poison from the body, at least just from the Bible and stuff like that, because it's a false image. It's a terrible knockoff of what they've done, how they twist and turn things for their benefit, and push things as it's like plagiarism, push things as their own. So
right.
yeah, so we're in the process of doing that right now, right here, right now, on History Meets Prophecy.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ezekiel. Let's go to the next slide.
Yeah, I like the way you put that down. Broke it down very
Yes.
nicely. Thank you.
Right. So we know that the term religion, which is abused and misused today, is the return, again, that's the re part, of the Israelite to his or her father according to the terms of their covenant, their everlasting covenant. That is what religion means. And again, look it up and see. So basically, it's a process, and there is only one religion. There is only one people that, again, the re means we've been there before. The legion, if you can use that expression, is the legal aspect of it. That's where the law comes in, the covenant. So the Israelites are the only ones with the covenant, and we know who they are. And we know that thanks to our elder Shadrach, we have been able to return to our God, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And we do this with all confidence. But we also keep the doors open for other people to come, because they too have been misled. And not just by Christianity. I mean, it's far beyond, but they are the major player in this endeavor. So we have to think about it and think about why they're doing what they're doing, because even they themselves don't know why.
Michael, if
Yes,
I could quickly chime in there, because I love the point you're talking about on religion. And
yes,
just for all of you that are out there in cyberspace, you can go into your computer right now and type in R-E, and then meaning, the prefix, and you can read the words that are associated with it. Repetition, or revert, refurbish, record, rewatch, etc. As in to do again, or as in to go back. And so when you look at the history of the Bible, you read the Bible, you start in the beginning, not in the New Testament, you go to the Old Testament, you learn that there was a first family, and then after that family gets, they go through all that stuff, and after the flood, you get, the new family with the new covenant and all that stuff that's established with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Everything that you just mentioned just now.
right,
So there's only one true religion with the true and living God.
right. So this is significant, and it's important that people understand and appreciate this. So we have to see then, why did this occur? Why? Who is behind it? And that's the challenge that we pose today. We want people to see clearly, who is that guy? Who is the adversary? Right, Officer Charmaine, I know you have something you want to add.
Yeah, I was just actually just doing a quick search on the word legion. It's so funny Ezekiel mentioned what he did.
Yes.
And, okay, so the definition isn't as profound as I was expecting it. But one of the things that it's looking at is a large group. In this context, it's a large group of soldiers. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, now you have which is, you've been there before, now you're doing it again. So it's it's like a repetition. And then legion, which is a large group of people, or a group of people. It's like, well, hello, it makes sense. This is the return of a group of people to the God of Israel.
But you said the key word. The key word is soldiers. So you can see there is a spiritual warfare that is being expressed in somewhere there. So that is significant. That speaks
Yeah.
volumes
I
because
was like, that just putting that all together.
yeah,
Look at who we are.
right,
Look at its return of the God of Israel's army, the return of his soldiers, the return of his people.
exactly.
Wow,
So
that
that
is.
says a lot. That legion, if which is a Latin expression, but we're not going to get into
Mm.
all that. We're just going to keep it simple. So let's go to the next slide then and talk about that. Okay, so here is the foundation on which Christianity is built. You have the spiritual underpinnings then, as is stated right here. And right away, you could see that cross. And where would you find the cross? And of course, wrapped up in that cross is the snake. Now, that doesn't look very positive. As a matter of fact, I when I see that image, PTSD, right? I have that feeling that I need to go take my medication because these are the people that really slaughtered us, and this is how it happened. And I have this. I suffer from that PTSD when I see these things. When I see a man dressed in black with a big cross on his chest, or I get scared right away because I know there's a Christian influence right there with a satanic background that I cannot really appreciate. So right away, I grab my sword. And of course, the sword is the Holy Scriptures, right? I hope that people understand that. I'm not trying to create an atmosphere of violence here. This is just to let people know I have to defend myself against those, as you said, the army that's coming to attack us. The spiritual or the spirit behind this Christian establishment would be Satan and his hellboys, and they are very good at what they do. They let no one lose any insight with regards to that. Again, we can read this in the book of Matthew. Um, I don't know if we have time to go into that, but I think the audience can go through it on their own in Matthew chapter 24. But someone has to prevent the Israelite or the children of Jacob, call it what it is, from returning to his or her father.
Mm. So, sorry, Ezekiel, you're going to join? One sec. Okay. So I was just thinking, we spoke about this is not just something that's just happened over the last 400 years or even 1,000 years. This is something that has been going on from the beginning of time. From the
Yes.
beginning of time. And you've heard Elder Michael, you've heard our elder, you've heard, many of our priests and elders and speak about the very beginnings, when the God of Israel, hey, listen, guys, if you haven't read Elder's book, The Truth, the Lie, and the Bible, oh my goodness, I am having a religious experience, just rereading it again. It's just so incredible. But when you read it, you're looking at how things started right at the very beginning from the Garden of Eden and the deception and the corruption that took place right then. This is the same deception and corruption that you see today, especially in Christianity. That they have not changed. They have morphed. They have looked different throughout time, but they have not changed their goal. And as you said, Elder Michael, their goal is to stop the children of Israel serving the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And we've got to be mindful of that, because if we're not, we will lose ourselves as is intended by the other side.
Exactly. You don't want to fall prey to the enemy. And again, I don't have a problem with them doing what they do. What I do have a problem with, as you stated earlier, Officer Charmaine, is why are they influencing the world in a negative way regarding our family?
But that is their existence. That
Yes,
is the purpose. The sole purpose of their existence is to separate us from our God. That's the sole purpose, nothing else. Everything else that they do is what they've always done. And they've
right.
just rebranded it and renamed it. But
It's
their sole purpose is to separate us.
that
And I
is
So
want
so
they
to say,
have no other reason to exist.
right. And I want to
yeah,
mention before I forget that this is not an issue of black versus white. This has nothing to do with the color of your skin. This has to do with the truth versus the lie. And we are the children of the truth. So we stand up for our mandate. We stand up to defend our history, our culture, and we will not allow anyone, we don't care what you call yourself or what you look like, to take advantage of this opportunity and present the lie because you have the means to do it. We will defend our national integrity, and we will never back down, don't matter who you are or what you look like. And I want the world to
Amen.
understand
Wow, the mics. I feel
Amen.
that. I feel that fire on you.
that. It's
You
what
know,
it is, my friend.
I want to mention two things real quick. On the
Yes,
slide,
go ahead.
on the
Mhm.
slide, you have the serpent surrounding the cross. And
Yes.
then,
Yes.
to my mind, because yesterday and at Saturday we were talking about the power of words. Your words describe your experience. And so when you hear someone say, "Yo, oh, he's a snake" or "she's a snake," it's not a good thing. A snake, anything associated with a snake, is not a good thing. It always means deception. So who's deceiving who? And so I think it's a perfect image to describe that whole institution, because there's a lot of deception that's going on in that body of this so-called quote unquote religious practices. And
Yeah.
I know a few weeks ago we discussed, we looked at Catholicism, how it's the mother, the progenitor of all Christian denominations, 45,000 plus. And you read in the Bible when you learn that the devil is literally the author of confusion. Like, how confusing is it when you have 45,000 plus denominations? It's deceiving. And deception comes from the snake. So you put all these things together and you really see, I think the perfect terminology you have here, Hellboy, Satan and his Hellboys, is like you see it's a whole planned out mess, unorganized mess. There's no body, there's no family, there's no unity. Everything is just divided and compartmentalized and separated, and it's all due to that big snake.
And do you know why? Do you know why it is the way it is? Because the ultimate objective is about power.
Mm,
They're there to gain financial resources, to gain money, and to empower themselves so that they would be able to dominate the world. And this is exactly what is happening. You see, so we have to see it as it is and call it as we see it.
you know
And
what?
this is
100%.
exactly what I'm talking about.
I'm so glad you brought that point up, the point of power, because again, last week, I keep going to last week because studying Catholicism, again, the legacy code of all of Christianity, the roots, the foundation of it all. You look at the head person, the president, the prime minister, the pope, in his headquarters, and when he refers to himself as the vicar of Christ. Like, what kind of power-driven ideology is going through your head to refer to yourself as the vicar of Christ? You can
Right.
see the mother is that's how the mother sees himself or sees themselves, and then now you have all these other denominations looking for power too. It's a power-driven institution.
See,
But
let
you
me
know what?
just address
It's so,
one comment quick,
okay.
Officer Charmaine.
Go ahead.
Christopher is
Go ahead.
saying, how can we address, and put it in my own words, people that don't want to make a change? We see, we're not forcing change here.
We're not forcing, yeah.
Making the prescription available to those who seek the truth, who seek the healing. If you don't want it, if you're comfortable with what you're doing, if you're satisfied, knock yourself out. Case closed.
Yes. Yeah, just going off what that's a really good point. Thank you. Yeah, we're not here to convince anyone or force anyone. It's up to you at the end of the day. We're just giving you, as Elder Michael said, we're just written a prescription. It's up to you to go and fill it. If you fill it, it's up to you to take it. If you don't want to take it, that's okay. It's up to you. All right.
Choice
But
is
the
and you know
choice
what?
is
That's very
it's like,
authentic. It's very authentic in nature. It's
But
like
when they suffer, don't be blaming the white man for their suffering. Don't be blaming us. Look in the mirror, and whoever you see, blame that guy.
No, that's a really excellent contrast, like us versus everyone else in the world. Like, you look at the Crusades, you look at the Convert or Die series of the world of history. The Christians participated, the Muslims participated, but we as a people, we wanted to come from the heart. Like, we want you to, if you want to, of your own volition, of your own choice, your own free will, if you believe that this prescription is for you, yeah, go for it. But no one's holding a gun to your head telling you to come join us or come do this or come do this with us, etc. It's of your own free will.
We don't want people like that. I'm sorry. If we have to put a gun to your head and force you to come, I'm sorry. You're not needed. You
First
are
of all,
absolutely
we don't
not
have
needed.
any
We
guns.
don't need robots. We don't need people to be forced or feel like they're being forced or whatever. We don't need it. It's okay. You stay where you are until you're good and ready. But right now, we're speaking to those who has this thing inside of them that says, you know what? There is something out there, and I just can't put my nail on it. This is it. This is the thing that's out there. And
In a
if it speaks to
nutshell,
you,
in a
then as I said,
nutshell,
you can join us.
those who seek the truth. Case closed.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If you're not,
And this is it. Once you're here, this is it. The learning begins, and it's a lifetime commitment. It's not going to be done in one day. It's a lifetime commitment. Yes. But one thing I wanted to go back to, when you were speaking about power, both Elder Michael and Ezekiel, you speak about power. And I don't know if you know, but did you know, and you probably do know, anyways, but did you know that for those of you who don't, that it was the Catholic institution, Christianity, that established the crown in Europe? You could not claim to be king, leader, ruler unless the Christianity said you were the leader.
Good point.
You could not do it. So every country that happened to, they have to pay allegiance to the Catholic Church. In addition to that,
yeah.
Sorry. In addition to that, you cannot have a city unless you have a Catholic or a church.
That's right, a shrine.
Yes.
That's a good point.
You cannot have a city. You cannot say this is the city. It doesn't matter how many people you have. If you don't have a church, it's nothing.
And to your point, Officer Charmaine, it's only recently that buildings are allowed to go higher than the shrine. But if you look at the crown, they all have a cross or more than one on that crown, which reminds me, and again, you'll have to go online to check this out. Back in ancient Egypt, where a lot of these things came from or originated, you will see that they all had a serpent on their crown, a serpent, a snake. So again, but I mean that's going a little bit further. Let's look at the next slide and see exactly.
Before you go, I do want to mention one thing, because what you just described there, because a lot of the people trying to separate the church and the state, it's always together. So you can't really do anything without the church's permission. The church will sign off on what's allowed and what's not allowed. But that's the most powerful form of government, which is a theocracy. It's when someone claims rulership. Oh, I was given this power by God, so you got to do what I say, or else you don't do it, and then God's no longer with you, kind of thing. And that's exactly how their system is built on. You can see the way the Pope is talking about himself, calling himself the vicar of Christ. Same kind of power struggle.
That is a good and very good analytical point, and a very good analogy there, Ezekiel, because you have that triangular dynamic involved, and a lot of people may not be thinking about this. That's why we're here. So you have the spirit, you have the soul, and you have the body. Again, we said earlier that the Christianity is a satanic institution. So therein then is the spirit. We got Satan and his hellboys. That's the spiritual angle. Then you have to have the soul. It means that Christianity is receptive. So that's the soul of the whole environment of the world today on earth. And then you have the body. The body, in my opinion, is the spiritual dynamic. Again, there is no separation, as you said, between church and state, as they call it, right? Spirit, the demon, soul, Christianity, and the body is the physical dynamic, which is the political side of things. And if you don't believe what we're saying, take a good look, and you will see, as Ezekiel just hinted, the politicians can't do anything without that spiritual involvement. It is right there for those that have eyes to see. I could give a whole list of some of the things that I've seen going way back, even recently in the days of Obama, when he wanted to include or reestablish relationships with Cuba. he had to go to the Pope. The Pope gave that speech in the, what do you call it, the garden at the White House. And then he even went to Cuba with to make Castro do. But that's the political side. I don't want to get into all of that. And I can give other examples, but we don't have time for that. Let's go to the next slide.
Yeah. Even just what you said, Elder Michael, the whole body, spirit, and soul, and you're right. Even though it doesn't seem like the Catholic Church, Christianity is at work, they are working on the physical level, because everything else is happening on the spiritual level. They are the one that decide the policies of the nations. They are the one. They are behind all the decisions that's been made. They were the one that financed all of these different trades, especially the slave trade. I mean, we know this. It's like, wow.
That's absolutely correct. And as we said before, and we'll remind people again, is who they're called Jesus today, Christians call Jesus, is the man Nimrod, whose birthday was celebrated on December 25th. I know people are out shopping for their Christmas trees and whatever. Again, we can break that down. We don't have the time to do all of that. But Nimrod is the one whose birthday was celebrated on December 25th. His name in Egypt was Osiris, Horus.
Yeah.
In Greece, it was Zeus and Apollo and Jupiter. Yeah. You name it. It's just a matter of the environment in which these rituals were entertained or performed.
It's the same spirit, different face, right? A completely different face to suit the environment, but it's the same spirit.
Exactly. So this is Babylonian, and I read before, and I could read it again. Let me just bring up that reference.
I want to mention something real quick, because it's crazy how you're going through this. I did a lesson on this a few years ago, looking at Valentine's Day. And when you're digging deep into the history of even Valentine's Day, Saturnalia, Easter, you see that they're all connected. You're serving the same God in all three of them. And so in that lesson, I'm just going to quote something over here. So I was looking at Lupercalia. So you have Saturnalia, which is Christmas. You go to Lupercalia. And so Lupercalia, this holiday is dedicated to the god Lupercus, sometimes identified as Faunus, who is equivalent to the Greek god Pan, who is known as Fern, who is associated with the Canaan god Baal, who is linked to Nimrod, son of Cush, which looks like the Baphomet. You see how crazy that is? I just took you across the whole entire continent just now.
Yeah.
It's so genius. So when you read things like spiritual wickedness in high places, you don't know who you're serving. You just like tack on a different name onto that same god or that different spirit. One of the Hellboys, and you're either way, you're still commemorating and giving homage to Satan. And you just don't know that because you're ignorant of the origin, the history of most of these holidays.
That is such an important point, because this is what I admire, if I can use that term, about the Hellboys and Lucifer and the Hellboys, because they would go to any extreme to get their ideas across. They will, and when I say any extreme, I mean they go as low down as possible to lie, to cheat, to change the storyline, to produce fables and allegories to get their point across. And Christmas is the perfect example. But as we said before, and we'll say again, it all starts in Babylon. And as it's written in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 51, verse 7, Babylon hath been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth to drink, or rather all the earth drunken. So they had to drink of the wine. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. So they're not just drunk, right? They're also spiritually intoxicated. And now they can't even think straight. To be drunk is one thing, because you can have fun, even though you've got a few drinks, right? But when your mindset is twisted, you don't have a clue which way is up, which way is down. You're just there. And that's how it is. So around Rome, in the time around 725, Rome was colonized by the Etruscans. And I can get into a lot of this. If you go to Italy, there's a place in the north called Tuscany. Ask yourself,
Mm.
where did that name come from? And at that
Yes.
time, the city of Rome was called the city of Saturn. Again,
Hmm.
where did that come from? Where does Saturn Day come from? Saturn Day. You think about it. And all of this is really that spiritual dynamic that we're referring to. Satan and his hellboys doing an excellent job as far as promotion of the lie is concerned.
Yeah.
They stop at nothing to get their point across. And you got to give them credit for it, even though it is evil and wicked.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
know, and just going even back to what you were talking about, you speak about the couple of Babylon. You look at the Catholic Church, they are acting out this in the most physical way and so blatant when they have their communion. Everybody comes to drink of the cup, and you have to drink of that cup. You can't just say, oh, no, excuse me. And what is it? They're drunk with her wine.
And
Okay.
that's how they communicate. That's why it is called communion. You see? So, of course, as I found out, because I didn't know, I'd never been to one of these places. And I found out from some of our guys, our wonderful people, that only the priest drinks the wine. Well, hell, if the priest is drunk, what the heck do you think he's going to talk about?
Exactly. What are they talking about?
You know what? It's very funny that you say that, because that is crazy. Because you learn that drinking wine or setting up wine at your altar is completely an abomination unto the Lord. You see that in the Catholic Church. It's only allegedly in some denominations it's the priest. Others it's the priest and the congregation when that's
Yes.
drinking the wine and then eating their biscuits and wafers. You look at Jehovah Witnesses for an example, though. It's like they have the idea of the little flock and the greater flock, but only the quote unquote little flock would be the ones drinking the wine and the bread during their quote unquote Passover. It's like the people, the highest of the highest, are the ones that are doing the most debauchery, and they're leading the congregation. So if the top people are doing the most amount of debauchery, where are they leading everyone else? You know, it's the blind leading
Yes.
the blind. They're gonna get drunk and walk into a ditch, kind of thing.
And you know what? It's, yeah, you're right. The blind leading the blind. And the thing about it is, and we cannot be fanatics about this. It works for them, but it will not work for you or for me. And this is what the point we're trying to bring across. Stay in your own lane, because if you change lanes without, imagine yourself on the highway, you're driving and you change lanes without indicating. When you indicate that you're about to change, you do so according to the law, right?
Mhm.
We are the doctors of the law. We are the ones that to whom the law was given. So we cannot change lanes, because we have to stay in our lane, because that is the prescription. That's how the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob commanded us. He didn't suggest it, he commanded it, because he understood what was going to come and how it was going to affect us. Once we stay in our own lane, they can't touch us. Remember
You
that.
know, when you talk about that, and that's a beautiful analogy, but a child of Jacob following Christianity, they're not going out of lane. They are going the wrong direction,
There you
you
go.
know. And so their life is
I
just
was trying to be nice.
they're going the wrong direction. Forget that. It's like
I was trying to be nice about it,
so
but
their
you're
life is just
correct.
chaotic.
You're
Oh,
absolutely correct. And that is total chaos right there. Because if the street says this direction and you have four lanes driving in that direction, why the hell are you going? You know, at least
the
take the
opposite.
plane, take the helicopter. In other
Yeah, so
words, and therein is the analogy again, take the high road. Did you get that?
nice one, nice one.
Thank you. Thank you. All based on what you're saying, Officer Charmaine. I like it.
So that's coming from you. You started that analogy, but you know what? You can take this to another level.
Definitely. A higher
We have
level.
we have a point here
Yeah.
from Corrine. She says communion. They're people in charge, secret form of communication. Okay, their communion is a secret form of their communication.
Right.
Got to say, got to say it again. Diabolical. It is diabolical. And it is. It's for them, but it's destroying us.
Now
And that's
remember
the
this. Remember this, and you're right. It's only diabolical to us. You see, to them, it is a progress. It's a step towards their success because that's what they choose to do. We cannot criticize them for doing things in their own backyard. It's none of our
Mm.
business, right? But if they try to promote that in the school system where our children are attending, then we need to stand up and correct the situation, or to at least interject with some degree of correction. That's all that we're saying here. So we don't want people to think we're trying to dominate the world. No, we are trying to keep out because we've been called out. So we're trying to prevent them from creeping into our backyard, coming into our houses, and try to change the dynamics that we offer.
Mm.
That's it.
Yes. Just looking at the slide. Sorry, Ezekiel, did you have something to say?
No, you know what? I just see this comment over here. They change faces to appeal to everyone. Hence, they have a very big net to catch everyone. I like this comment from Uncle Elvis because, when you look back at history, you look at the person Constantine, who was a huge political but historical figure in the creation of Catholicism. He practiced, syncretism, which is the amalgamation or attempt to amalgamate all different sorts of religions and cultures together. He made the ultimate buffet. There's food for everyone. Whatever diet you're on, whether it's the seafood diet, the keto, you're fasting, you're intermittent fasting, you're just all meat diets, whatever you're on, vegan, pescatarian, vegetarian, he has that diet for you. It's like it's a one-stop shop. Whatever you need, he has it.
But remember this, Ezekiel, is even though they're different plates, they're all cooked in the same, and listen to me carefully, the same damn sauce.
Yes, cross-contamination.
Damn sauce.
Yes.
So say the same pot, same thing.
Same pot, cross-contamination. But that's the point I wanted to make because it's so enticing. There's something for someone in that place, which is why they have a huge following. There's a little bit of paganism over there. There's some, you can eat pork there. You can do this thing over here. We're kind of holy sometimes, but not all the time. We drink wine over there. It's very appealing because it's an all-inclusive trip. Who doesn't want to go on an all-inclusive trip? No one wants to just go to the country. They want the hotel. They want the buffet. They want the beach. They want the pool. They want the food.
Pause for a moment, Ezekiel. Let's address that statement from Christopher. He's saying, is there a way to open the eyes of the blind without starting conflict? You see, the point is we're not trying to open anybody's eyes. We're putting it there and allowing them to seek for themselves. So there's no conflict unless the conflict is within.
Yeah, the scriptures make it clear. Those who have eyes to see, let them see. Those who have ears to hear, let them hear.
Right.
We can only say so much and do so much. But if you have the ears to hear, you will hear. If you have the eyes to see, you will see.
When I first started, I did something spiritual that I didn't even comprehend. But when the Spirit came and told me, get your Bible, I was like, no, because I thought the Bible was a Christian book. Until I then met Elder Shadrach, and then he taught me that this is our book. So you see, my point is I was ignorant once too. So I don't have a problem with people that are ignorant. I have a problem with them that are ignorant and don't want to change, don't want to make a difference in their lives. So ignorance is one thing. But wanting to be, a little bit more enlightened, that I think is a difference.
You know what? Just to go one step higher, like what you described right there, I call it like willful ignorance. It's like it's not even the chance of exploring different possibilities or even doing your due diligence to see why you believe what you believe. But you're just gonna go run it there and follow the bandwagon because everyone else is doing it. Like that's your willfully, like in all your heart, you just want to be ignorant. That's really annoying in my eyes, at least. It's right there in front of you. The history is there. They tell you in the open, this is what they did to your people. These are the things that they practice. It's open. It's right there. Cupid is a little god from Rome that you guys are celebrating and commemorating. You have a fat man that comes down chimneys that knows when you're good and when you're bad. That sounds like another god. How do you know when someone's good and bad? You can travel across the world.
Wait a minute, Ezekiel. Wait a minute. How the hell?
That's another god.
How the hell is a fat man going to get down the chimney?
I know he's going to block up the chimney, and then a lot of smoke and enter to the house, and people like that.
Hey, you guys are talking about chimney, but try living in a block of flats on a 4th floor without any chimney.
Exactly.
Either way, he's going to find himself in. He's going to call out the. You know what? I'm surprised not even a federal crime for these actions. He's just breaking and entering people's homes. You can get 8 to 10 years in prison. He had little boys sit down on his lap at the mall, like there's a lot of weird questioning things that are going and being perpetuated in that in that philosophy.
That is highly disturbing. But I have to say, we had a statement here earlier from our Auntie Sophie, and she said, "If you're blessed with knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, fight with everything in you to keep it. Yes. Stand firm with the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, because we are in this, but not of the world."
That's right.
So, you know what? This is something that's really very powerful, because you're right, Elder Sophie. If you have any reference, any type of knowledge, wisdom, understanding that's been blessed, that's been given to you by the God of Israel, by the God of Abraham, God of Isaac, and God of Jacob, you need to fight with everything in your being to make sure that you hold on to that. Because, we've seen people that have been a part of this, and they were so ingrained. And today they are either eating shrimps or wearing a cross, and to me, that is the most disturbing of all. It's one thing when you see someone that doesn't know or doesn't really care to know. It's another thing when you know somebody that has been in this with their everything, and then they turn away and they go and they eat the shrimp and they wear the cross, and they go and call upon Jesus. It's like, okay, I am completely confused. That is, to me, is, oh my goodness, the worst.
And then what do? They come on television and they blame the white man. Like, what the hell? The white man, I don't care what you look like, is the man looking back at you in the mirror. So you put the pieces together. You know what I'm saying? Because he's the one that is guilty. Whoever is looking at you in the mirror. If he's white, fine. But if you look like me, it doesn't make sense.
I love that statement. I love that point. The point that Yvonne Williams said, she said, some of us as parents have been the first ones to lie to our children by telling them that there is a Christmas and Santa Claus.
Same point. I like that. Yeah.
It's like, oh my God.
I'm not going to give her any guilty thing for that, because we all made mistakes. So we chalk to our mistake as long as her eyes are open to the truth. Now we can make a difference, and we can learn from that mistake. There's nothing wrong with making mistakes. If you learn from them, you're okay. If you don't, you're going to repeat it over and over and over and again in different ways. So this is what this program is all about.
Brother Michael, when I hear you Lord speak here, what comes to me is a quote from Elder. He'll always say, knowledge is power, wisdom is strength, but understanding is the essence of life itself. And when you have that understanding, that's the gift. It's the essence of life itself. It's something worth protecting and cherishing and keeping close. And like Elder Sophie said, something you want to fight for very, very hard to keep it. Because once you lose it, you become like everyone else.
Exactly.
Yes.
And you become like everyone else. You're no longer a part of the flock. You're no longer sanctified through that understanding.
This is why we always have to remember we were called out of the world. This is why we are called the chosen remnant. We are not like everybody else. And the reason why is because we serve a different God. We serve the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, unlike the rest of the world, even though we're just a handful.
And when you talk about being called out, it just automatically reminded me of the scripture when the God of Israel says, I called my son out of Egypt. And people think, oh yeah, well, Israel and Egypt. No. I called my son out of Egypt. You know what that means? It means that, the spirit of Egypt itself is so strong, and it exists today. And it is the foundation of Christianity. It is so ingrained in everything.
And I have
trying to call his son out of Egypt. Get out of her. Get out of Christianity.
Yeah, come out of her, my people. But here's a challenge, Officer Charmaine. That's a good point. But here's a challenge. There's one thing to call the Israelite out of Egypt. There's another thing to get the Egyptian out of the Israelite.
Oh, we like that.
You went there.
I gotta have a drink for that one, because that one gets me very emotional.
Cheers.
He deserves it too.
That one is tough.
That's
Let's go
powerful.
to the let's go to the next slide, please. Next. Okay. So we got this one. Let's go to the next one, please. Okay. This then gives the philosophical foundation of Christianity. You see that it did not begin in Europe. It began in Alexandria, Egypt. And that was the location when the Israelites passed through Egypt. They dropped a lot of nuggets there. And these nuggets eventually became philosophy because there was a quest for people there to understand what, these are people that are practicing the truth, the lie, while we were practicing the truth. So there obviously was a conflict. And this whole entire Christian foundation was based on the Kabbalah, which is the image that we're seeing right there. It's a secret doctrine based on the lie, but it is harmonized so beautifully that everybody would want to take a piece of it and try to understand it. The philosophers, they failed to comprehend what we were trying to teach them, or our foreparents were trying to teach them concerning the truth, because you had to change your spiritual dynamic, and they did not want to do that, because to make that change means that you had to make a compromise, if you will, in order to adopt. You can't have two spiritual forces. That creates conflict. But you had to drop one and pick up the other, and they weren't willing to do that. So what did they do? They picked a piece of the old, or the piece of the truth, I should say, and they blended it with the lie. And that's how Christianity emerged.
Yeah, this is just such a tragic situation and tragic scenario. But you're right. This symbol is represents the Kabbalah, which is really the basis for most philosophies. It's really the basis for most of them, and they don't even know that. And I've seen this symbol actually in, where was it? In Malaysia. And it was so funny because they used it. It was called the Tree of Life for them. I mean,
Yes.
it's called the Tree of Life for these guys as well. But it's so funny how everybody has adopted a similar symbol, because really the Kabbalah is the basis for all of these philosophies. And why? Again, because it came from Egypt, which actually came from Babylon and Samaria.
Yes.
That is the beginning. That is the genesis of what's taking place here.
Right. And we have to, again, it's good to connect the Babylonians with it, because remember the Tower of Babel. The Tower of Babel is not just a physical structure. There was a physical structure, but within that, the philosophical background or foundation of it was the Kabbalah. And this was the attempt to replace the doctrine of truth with the lie. And if you look today, for those that have eyes to see, it has gone throughout the entire world. But only the Israelite could see this, because we have the eyes to see. If you're in a room and you're doing drugs, this is what I've heard, and everybody is smoking, you're not going to believe anything because you're high, the room is clouded, you can't see clearly. It's only when you come out of that room and you see that there's an alternative that you recognize that there are other options, right? You don't have to smell that way. You don't have to think like that. As a matter of fact, now you can think. So this is what we're talking about. If you want to make a difference, you got to leave what you're grown up with or what you're accustomed to behind and seek the truth. And it's just that simple. So let's go to the next slide, unless you have anything to add.
Yeah, I would like to find out from our audience, again, thank you for joining us. And, thank you as well for your comments and your questions. But please, continue to add them. And I would also like to find out from you, have you ever heard anything like this? Have you seen that Tree of Life before? What are your thoughts on this?
Exactly. So now we see how from Alexandria, Egypt, and I want to mention one thing here, because we all have our cell phones and we don't understand how these things actually work, or meaning the background, the influence, if you will, that is hidden. if you let's say you want music and you're taking your bath or whatever, or you're getting dressed and you want to feel good, and you say, "Oh Siri, can you do this?" Alexa, can you do that? Or Sophia, can you do this? And then things start, right? So have you ever asked yourself, who is Siri? Who is Alexa? Who is
Mhm.
Sophia? Well,
Yeah.
from my understanding, Alexa speaks to Alexandria. And out of Alexandria came Philosophia.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
and then Ceres, there's is a planet system, Sirius. And
Hmm.
again, please take your time and investigate some of these things. I'm not saying don't throw your cell phone in the water, please. If you're thinking of that and it's a good one, send it for me. I'll use it. But my point is, don't be a fanatic. Just try to understand the world in which we live, put the pieces together, and see how you could prevent them from enslaving your mindset. Prevent that enslavement so that you could continue to ask questions and to develop a sense of appreciation for the truth. That's all that we're asking here. So the spread of idolatry and divination is what Christianity did, has done, I should say.
Mm.
We have, like from Alexandria, you get Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, Orpheus, and the most important guy of all is
Yes.
Simon the magician, who happens to be a Samaritan, who, of course, is an Israelite.
What is the saying that your enemy is usually someone that knows you or know your inner workings?
Yes,
A stranger can't be your enemy because he doesn't know you. But the
exactly.
one that knows you, that knows your inner working, they are always the worst. They turn out to be your enemy, the worst of the worst. And you have an Israelite, a Samaritan, Simon Magus, who started this whole doctrine of Christianity.
Right. And that is an important point because, and again, we will get into this at another time, that is the ultimate betrayal. But it has to happen because we know that somebody had to make this effective, this doctrine that is called the lie, this Christian doctrine. That's what we're talking about here. Thanks again for the donation. Really appreciate
Yes,
it.
thank you for your
Yes.
donation.
And the best person, as you know, again, we as the children of Jacob, we know exactly more than the average person. This is why, as I've said 1,000 times, I'll say it again. Elder Shadrach was not the first to know that the children of Jacob are indeed, or the children of slavery, let's call them what they were, are indeed the children of Israel. Elder Shadrach was the first to do something positive and constructive about that knowledge. Everybody else knew. That's why there's the KKK. That's why there's Christianity. That's why they tell you can that Jesus is this and that, and Jesus is God. All of these lies they promote, and they use us. I always remember this very clearly. When
Mm.
I looked at the television and I saw the Christian pastor coming on television, I remember distinctly the first thing that he would do, he would call this black lady, this child of slavery, to sing. And I never understood that until I came to listen to the teaching of Elder Shadrach. Then I
Yeah.
was able to put the two together. When that black lady sings, she opens up the spiritual dynamic, and he can
Yes.
get whatever demon he wants to call on. Because
Yes.
obviously she was a Christian, so she didn't know the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but she had the gift of an Israelite, the musical talent.
Because she is a child of Jacob.
She is a child of Jacob, but she don't know her
That's
father because she is singing to Jesus. You
mm.
see, and that opened up the whole spirit of idolatry and divination that this pastor now had access to. And then he started preaching, and in the process, they're passing this big bucket, and you throwing money in at it, and all, and the rest is history. So
Yeah.
all of this confusion occurred, and guess who was at the foundation of it all? We know it was Lucy, but who was his first agent? One of us, the child of slavery.
Mm.
Who?
Yeah, I think that's our next slide, and this is our focus. I know we spent a good time giving you the background of Christianity and Catholicism, and that spirit of divination and deception and all that fun stuff. But now we're going to go to the slide that we really want to focus on, because I think this one unearths a lot of the deception that's out there, and I think let's give it to them, Elder Michael.
Yes, I mean it's there. I mean it's good. He sought. You see, he was an Israelite, but he did not want an honesty and all truthfulness to serve the God of Israel. He was interested in serving himself.
Elder Michael,
yes.
Elder Michael, real quick, before you guys go on just now, it's funny because as I was hearing you speak, one thing that comes to my mind, like something that you always tell me, Mom, is keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer.
Yes.
And you learn that the enemy can only come within the family. So Simon Magus, or Simon the Magician, is the perfect agent for that kind of stuff.
That's right.
He knows, how the family operates from within. Even Satan knows the Bible himself. You can see that in the scriptures and stuff like that. But it's crazy how that's the person that orchestrated the biggest problem we have.
It really is.
All we have to do is ask a simple question. Who betrayed Jesus? Do you think there was a stranger that came from somewhere in Spain, Portugal, or Italy, or France, or wherever? It was one of our own brothers sitting at the table. Sitting at the table.
There was even a Canaanite among us. There was a Canaanite among us. Even he had more integrity than our own guy.
So this is something that a lot of the so-called Black people have to take note of, because we have a dirty, filthy habit of pulling each other down rather than elevating each other, pushing each other up.
I also want to mention. I also want to mention real quick, because you're talking about the educational system. So the fact that they're tackling the educational system, they have the next generation being cultivated for their agenda. I always say, like, they teach you what they want you to know.
But that's not the issue, though, Ezek. That's not the issue. The issue is, yes, they structure it against us, but do we have to fall for it? The truth is there, and it's available to all of us, right? Do what you have to do to get ahead. But all I'm suggesting is, please don't betray your brother or your sister. That's my point.
You know what the real truth is, though? Okay, what you're saying is absolutely true. But if they really want to get at you, if they really want to present a case to you, they would always bring a child of Jacob. They would always. And I hate when they do that. It's so infuriating, when something happens and you think to yourself, oh, okay. But when they bring that guy that's just minding his business, just walking across the road, and they say, hey, come, what do you think of this? And it's like, oh, poor guy. He doesn't know that he's out there.
They offer him money. There's money here. Come on.
Probably that as well.
Yes.
It's like, oh, no.
The guy's giving you 30 pieces of silver.
He doesn't even know what he's talking about. And two, he's just agreeing because you said he got paid or something.
Yes, they get paid.
Like,
so he offered Simon Peter money for his office, because he recognized, even as a voodoo priest, that what Peter and James and John were doing was more powerful than what he was doing. And he was atop of the line where he was in Samaria. So he decided, you know what? I got to get baptized so that I could be qualified to do this. And maybe I can gain something. He went through the process, but his heart was never there in the nation. Like Elder said, you could be a brethren, but you have to exercise that spiritual talent, that spiritual gift, and it's your service of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and your brethren. You can't say you love God and hate me or hate you because they don't like your hairstyle, Right. But this is something, that betrayal factor is something that is very, very prominent among Black people, so to speak. And we have to get rid of that demon, or else we will continue to suffer all the days of our lives upon this earth.
So Elder Ansel posed a point, whether it's Simon Magus versus Simon Peter. Now this is why we're doing this.
That's why
we're unearthing this, because it's so crucial for everyone to have that understanding, that common understanding.
Right. Notice how clever that is. The two
So
Simon.
clever, so
So-
wonderfully clever. Oh my gosh. I'm telling you, the lie, oh my goodness. It's so, and that's the thing about the lie. It's not just a blatant lie. It's got a little bit of truth to it.
A little bit.
Just a
And
little bit of
sprinkle it
truth.
all over the top. What do you
Oh.
do? How do you discern what is right and what is not? You
Oh
see,
my gosh. They're
that's
so good.
it's a
These guys are
spiritual
good.
discernment, because we all fell for that trap once before.
Yes.
Now, thanks to our elder, we can walk with our heads held high in confidence, but at the same time, we don't put ourselves ahead of our God or ahead of our brethren. We try to use that gift, that talent, that awareness of the spirit of truth to help each other. That's the key. That way, there's no betrayal factor. Why? Because we are humble, we are obedient, and we stay disciplined. These are the factors that we have to address, right? So
those are some good factors. Those are some real strong factors, like, especially considering it's family factors.
yeah,
There's principles, there's precepts, there's qualities and standards that you wouldn't want to go against, because you're a unit, you're one team, you're a whole body under one spirit.
Exactly. I'm not going to criticize you just for the fact that you're advancing ahead of me. And I said it yesterday. I feel bad if I'm the teacher and you don't get a good grade. If you fail and I'm the teacher, I failed. You see, because in my way of thinking, if I'm the teacher, my students are supposed to be better than me.
The reflection of you.
Then I could feel like I've done my job.
Okay, somebody, James Gibbs, I think it is, said, thanks to God, the Israelite nation is where the truth is, but thanks to Elder Shadrach for being a humble servant and listening to the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And I have to echo that. Thank you, Elder Shadrach, for being so humble and listening to the truth so that we can share and partake in it. So, guys, definitely, if you see Elder Shadrach, make sure you say, thank you, sir, because he's shared this with us.
Because as I said before, I was ignorant once. And I don't have a problem with people being ignorant. I have a problem with the people not seeking the truth from a perspective of their ignorance. And that's where it is. So this is why we want to shout out to, like you said, to our elder, because he is the one that really turned me on to the truth. Before that, I was just wandering up and down in total darkness. So let's take another look at the slide.
Yes, Simon Magnus. Yes, please.
Yeah. So Simon then challenged Simon Peter, and because he wanted to buy that power, he did not want.
And guys, sorry, Elder Michael, for cutting you. Read this, okay? This is not something we're just sitting here making up. Go to Acts. Is it Acts 8? Go to Acts 8.
Yes.
You can read the story, and it's phenomenal. Take your time and dissect. It is phenomenal. What's actually going on here? Okay, Elder Michael.
Thank you for that, because people need to know that we are not making this up. Yes. So when he offered Peter the money to buy that power, Peter said, "Go to hell and take your money with you." I'm paraphrasing, And it's funny that Peter said, "To hell with you and your money," and guess where he went? To Rome.
To hell. To Rome.
Is Rome hell? And he went to Rome and established this doctrine where they use they call themselves Gnostics or Gnosticism, and
isn't Helen in Rome?
Well, there is something there, but I'm not even going to go there. I just let it be. He went to Rome,
story.
and there he was the one that established the spiritual foundation that made Christianity possible. That is a historical fact. He was there about the year 44, and then in the era under Claudius Caesar, when he was the emperor called it, and began to invite people to investigate this, and they established that Gnosticism. He was the leader in that endeavor. The Romans were so proud and so they felt so good. They set up an image of him where they worshipped him as God on the river Tiber. You can take a look at these things also. And he then became the first pope of Christianity, even though it wasn't called Christianity at that time, right? Like I said, it was Gnosticism at that time. And then over time, as a matter of fact, it wasn't called Christianity until about the 16th century. So
Mm-hmm.
all of this went, and then there was a little dispute within the family. You can read this in the book of Acts. I think it was throughout the book. They challenge each other at different locations. You have the philosophers, and then you have Paul, the minister of Israel, and others, and they were being challenged at the synagogues because everyone has one opinion, but then the Israelites have the truth, and there's going to be a clash. So all of this is what occurred during time, and I wish we could dissect all of this, but we don't have the time to do it. So we can just give an overview, and we, as you said, Officer Charmaine, the individuals should read it on their own. But this foundation took place, and as we see today, there's 8 billion people on the planet that are continuing that process.
So let it be clear, it was Simon Magus, or Simon the magician, or I think he has many other names that he comes by, but it's not Simon Peter. It
Nope.
was this Simon that was baptized because he was trying to covet the power that the Israelites had. He wanted this for himself. He was already performing all kinds of miracles or doing all kinds of stuff with his demonic powers, right? But it was him. He apparently he seemed to have received the understanding and was baptized. But then he's like, oh my gosh, this is so incredible. How much do I have to pay you to do what you're doing? And this is when Simon Peter's like, how dare you? That is the deepest offense, to offer money for something that's been given by the God of Israel. That was such a great offense. And then you see his mentality, because he wants to magnify himself. And it was him. It was this Simon that went to Rome, and it was this Simon that set the foundation for the establishment of Christianity.
Let me just make one point quick, a brief point. And this is going to be weird, but I don't want people to get the wrong opinion. Have you ever seen the symbol of the dollar? What do you think about it? When I first, after being in the nation for these years, and I looked at the dollar and I've said, you know what? That symbol is almost the symbol like a serpent on a pole. And I'm like, damn, wow. And no wonder it is so attractive. Everybody wants a dollar. And it's, by the way, it's the filthiest document or element that you could have, but everybody wants it because $1 will pass through everybody's hands. Some people, whatever. And I'm guessing there's money laundering too. Maybe that's where it comes in. I don't know. But that serpent on a pole has tremendous value. That's all I want to say. If you want to get rid of yours, please send it to Israelite Nation.
Let me tell Michael so that he can examine it, but it might get lost in the mail on the way back. Anyways.
Okay.
But yes.
Go ahead.
Let's go to the next slide.
Yeah, the next slide, please. So yes, here's a contrast with Simon Peter. And we understand that Simon Peter was a very, very strong and dedicated Israelite. As a matter of fact, he was one on which the Christ said, because he was able to discern when Christ says, "Who do men say that I am?" And this is something that is fascinating. The name Peter is almost like an interpreter. Did you get that? Interpreter.
I said yes, Peter
Peter at the end, okay. Right? And then you have like Jupiter and others. So this is why people get confused, or they take advantage of that in order to say, well, Simon is the same as Simon Peter, when that is not true. That's a lie. Maybe this is the way it was done to create that confusion. I don't know. It's just that it's different, and we have to understand that difference between Simon the magician, or Simon Magus, and Simon Peter, Simon the Israelite. Simon was imprisoned by King Herod, who was a Roman representative. He was actually an Edomite, right? But he served the Roman government in Jerusalem at the time. And about the same time, about that year 44, he was in jail temporarily. And the rest of the time, he was the head of this Israelite Supreme Council all throughout that whole period in time that Simon Magus was establishing Christianity in Rome. And he was there from about 44 to 67, I think that was when he died, and was buried on the hill called Vaticanus, whereby they built a shrine over his body. I guess I find that very intriguing, because the Christ said to Simon Peter, on this truth, this rock, we will build our church. And Constantine built a basilica on the bones of Simon Magus. Was he trying to imitate the Christ? I'm just throwing it out there for people to think about it, because when they discovered the bones, they found out that the bones were actually Simon Magus's bones. So these are things.
I don't even know if they really know whose bones it is, but the bottom line is, it's like you know these guys. I'm telling you, okay, there are books.
Peter never set foot in Rome. That's the bottom line.
If they've lost their relic, they will go and find another one and call it that, so that they have the power because they have that relic, right? So they did this so many times throughout. So for me, the lies are just like.
But there is no evidence of Peter ever setting foot in Rome, and that
is the bottom line. The bottom line is, you imagine, if you think about it, right? Peter was there in charge of the Israelites, of the doctrine at the time in Jerusalem, in and around Jerusalem, right? Why the heck is he going off to Rome?
Exactly.
He had a mandate. The Christ said to him, feed my flock, feed my people. Where the heck are you going? Why are you going to Rome?
Exactly.
There's enough people in Jerusalem to deal with, right? So,
just the point to even add there.
You would have his envoys going out if that was the case. But he had a job to do. His job was huge. Think about it, guys. Why is he going off there on vacation? No, he had a job to do in and around Jerusalem, where the majority of our people were at the time. So anyway.
Just even to answer your point though, like that's a huge geographical distance, like all the way from where you are, the children of Israel. You're gonna travel all the way to Rome to go establish the Church of God. What's going on here? That is the best.
Not only that, Ezekiel.
Feed my people.
All the way to Rome. And even considering,
when you go to a different country,
even considering like at the time when the Romans were the ones oppressing the Israelites in that land that they're in, it's like, why would you give such an honor, a high honor, to the people that destroyed you, laid waste to you, prevented you from doing the things to serve your God? You're going to put that honor.
The job was already difficult. The job was already difficult. You're not going to go off to a different land to go and find who to speak to. Of course, there were Israelites there, but that wasn't his mandate. His mandate was he was in charge of the Israelites at the time.
Yeah.
And his mandate was to feed the flock of Israel, to feed Israel, right? So you have enough people around you to talk to. Why the heck are you running off to? Anyways.
And remember, Peter in Acts 10 didn't want to have anything to do with the Gentiles. When you read Acts 10, a lot of people will tell you today, the Christians, that it had to do with food. But it had nothing to do with food, because the Gentiles were considered unclean. And Peter said even though the Holy Spirit was showing him that it's okay to rise and eat, right? Mm-hmm. In other words, go and do what you have to do with Peter's like, no. And this was just Cornelius. This wasn't everyone, because Peter was supposed to be the apostle of the Israelites. Paul was the chosen representative to go and teach the Gentiles.
And that was his punishment.
Yeah, exactly. But the Gentiles were considered unclean. They were uncircumcised. They didn't know God, and so on and so forth. So Peter.
And so if Paul went to Rome, it would make sense. Yeah, there's plenty of Gentiles there. But of course, there's a good job there. Good posting.
Yeah. But they'd have to change his name to Peter to match Simon Paul, maybe, I don't know.
It's crazy, because even with the Catholic Church, one of their holy days in their I think it's called a catechism. I read about the last week. They have the feast of Saint Paul and Saint Peter, and those are the two people they want to commemorate and give homage to. And it's in their doctrine. Like this is what makes up the Catholic ideology. But those two people, they're Israelites. Nothing to do with the Catholic establishment. It was Simon Magus, Simon the magician, that was up there doing all his fun stuff and everything like that.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because we have to remember, and we mentioned it yesterday, that words matter. So
Yes.
regardless of where you are, you have to let your words reflect your high level spiritual integrity. You cannot just go there for, to be someone that is distinguished by your power that you're showing them. You don't want to go there and be popular. You have to go and tell the truth. And if you go in the midst of the lie to teach the truth, you are going to be challenged. You're going to become unpopular. So if the only way that you could become popular with the lie is to tell the lie or to teach the lie. And that's what happened to Simon the magician.
And then just to velcro off to the line real quick, just to add more to that feast day they have for Saint Peter and Saint Paul, and it's actually a pagan holiday to commemorate the founders of Rome, Romulus and Remus. So they take Peter and Paul, they put it on Romulus and Remus, and then they give it to the people and let the people celebrate those
You
scenes.
do what Christianity does best.
Exactly.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
those guys. They're those guys, man. Anyways, from Elder Freddie. Elder Freddie, yes, absolutely right.
Yes.
Thinking as a logical Israelite, why would Peter, the apostle of Jesus Christ, the Israelite, travel all the way to Rome
To hell.
establish Christianity when he was already the head of the church?
Exactly.
Why?
Yes.
Why would he go?
That's an
Beautiful.
excellent
Again, it's
Isn't it
easy for Elder Freddie to say that, because he is already a leader of the truth. You see, as Peter was back then. But most people today are still consumed by the lie, and they cannot comprehend the truth. And this is why we have to help them. And because here again, this is what I'm saying. We don't criticize. We just share the truth so that people can make a decision for or against. Simple as that.
Yes.
Let's
I mean,
go to the next slide.
this is what we're saying, this is exactly what we're saying. And that's the beauty of it. Oh my gosh. Thank you, God of Israel, for that
Amen.
degree of understanding.
We said,
But that's
thank you,
the
God of
beauty.
Israel, for Elder Shadrach.
And thank you, God of Israel, for Elder Shadrach, for sure. Absolutely. But just even thinking about you sit back and you place you start to put this in your mind, and you develop this story, and you see the big picture. Peter had a job. This was his duty. This is what he was supposed to do. This was the mandate. This is.
But let me just add this. I should have brought out the scripture. I think it's Acts 10, where the Christ said to the apostles, "Go not and to the Samaritans or the Gentiles." I forgot how it was written, so I have to look it up. But I don't
going to the lost children of Israel.
Another scripture where he said, "I was only sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel."
The house of Israel. Yes, it was all.
It's confirmed.
Yeah. Even Christ, this was he came for Israel.
Yes, only.
He came for Israel.
And Paul confirmed it too. Like Romans 9, he tells you, who Christ came for. And which is like our creed, I say the truth in Christ, I lie not. He goes through all of it. He tells you for us who was given the law, the statutes, the prophets, the covenants, the service of God.
Right. So we could see the difference now very clearly, very distinctly. It is as bold now as a headline, painted in red with and underlined that Christianity is not of the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, or the God of Jacob. It's not biblical, and it has to do now with the satanic composition with the Hellboys. It is as simple as that. Case closed. Let's get
to the next slide.
Next slide, please.
We got it.
Next one. Okay, so now we talked about Paul, and Paul is the one that was sent to teach the Gentiles. And again, I think this is someone asked about grace yesterday. This shows the mercy of the God of Israel, because these people, the Gentile Europeans, had no idea who was the true and living God. They had no idea what were they supposed to do to gain access. And this is what happened. I think it was a day of Pentecost that things changed for them when they saw what was going on. And from that moment on, they could come into the family if they so seek the truth. So the mystery of iniquity, as Paul talked about in Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 7, had already began. And this didn't just happen with the Gentiles. This goes all the way back, even to the garden. When he said to Eve, Adam and Eve, that you will be like gods if you're not going
Yes.
to die. The lie began there, and this has to do with that guy, the snake, the serpent, is with the cross that everyone is bowing down to every Sunday or every Saturday or every Friday. You see, and these are the things that people need to be aware of.
It's so corrupt that even when you're doing research on Paul, you would always find the Apostle Paul. It's like, where the heck did you get that from?
Yes,
The Apostle Paul. He was not an apostle.
exactly.
The Christ only had 12 apostles, and
Right.
Paul was not one of them.
Exactly. But he
So,
did say himself that he was the apostle of the Gentiles, quote unquote.
well,
However,
yeah, well, he made it very clear, not
yeah,
Christ, but the
right.
Gentiles. This
But
is
he
a different.
said, but even in making that statement, he said, I magnify my office.
Of course.
You see what I'm
Why
saying?
not?
So he knew that was not his office, but he says, you know what? I'm going to push it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Whatever it
Absolutely.
takes, right?
Whatever it takes. You go out there, but the one thing about Paul, which people don't recognize as well, is that when he goes back to his brethren, when he goes back to people like Simon Peter and those guys,
Yes.
he is meek,
Humble.
he is humble,
Yes.
he is, yes, sir, no, sir,
Yeah.
whatever you say, sir.
Yeah.
That's
And
how
then,
he was. But when he
yeah,
goes out there, I am an Israelite. I
Yeah.
received the word. I'm
yeah. Yeah, I had to go to Jerusalem to straighten a few things out to those guys because they get a little bit confused over there, whatever. But that's okay because you do what you have to do to get your point across, and because you're dealing with the audience that doesn't really understand because he said to them, all you guys got to do, stay away from things strangled, stay away from blood, and don't bow down to idols. But you don't have to worry about Passover or Feast of Unleavened Bread or nothing like that. But then guess what? He took off to celebrate Passover in Jerusalem. You see, he didn't tell them to do it, but he went and did it. He just said, just stay away from the things strangled, the idols, and so on. Think about it, you see, because they didn't have the covenant. So anyway, go ahead.
Okay, so I want to go to the next slide,
Yeah,
and
next
this is
slide.
just right. And I think after this, then we could talk about the closing remarks. But
yes, so we have, as we talked earlier about Simon Magus and the Simon Peter, and then the Christians will tell you that it was Simon Peter, not Simon Magus, because they treat Magus as the interpreter of the Kabbalah, whatever and everything. But we have to put the truth ahead of everything else. It is they have to do what serves them best, but we here have to recognize that just because it's serving them, it is not what the God of Israel intended. It is not the truth, and call it for what it is, and let the people make their own decision. You see, the Christian scholars will tell you one thing, and that's their right because they get paid to do that. But we have to tell you the truth, regardless of what people say. The name Peter, yeah, Peter is not the role of an interpreter, as we're saying right here. It has to do with the God of Israel saying through the Christ that this rock, which is the truth, on this truth, he is going to build his church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. It doesn't mean that you will not be challenged. You're right. In essence, he is saying they're going to come for you, my friend, because you're living the truth in the land or in the world of the lie. So they're going to challenge you, but they will not prevail against you. In other words,
they will not prevail, and that's the key, Elder Michael. As much as they will challenge you, they will not prevail, and that's the beauty about understanding. Being an Israelite, it's going to be tough.
Yes, amen.
But you're going to get through this, and it's going to be okay, right? So I think that's really the comfort there.
Right. So is that the last one, or is there another?
There are a few more. We'll go into Gnosticism, but we can
Yeah,
always cover that in another
yeah, another time.
subject,
Yeah.
because we have come to the end of our session today. And
Yes.
I do want to thank everybody for joining us.
Yep.
I hope that you would, go over this again. If you have any questions or concerns, please put it in the chat. If there's anything that you would like us to touch on, please put it in the chat or send us a message. We're doing this for you because we really, really do appreciate you, right? So
Not only
I
that, but this kind of presentation gives us the greatest satisfaction. This is all that we live for, to share the truth with those that seek the truth, so that our
absolutely,
God may be glorified, so they can come and hold hands with us if they so
yes,
desire. We're not
yes.
forcing anything, but this is a great opportunity, something that we feel privileged and honored to do. So thank you so much for taking the time to participate.
Right. And the young man Ezekiel, do you have anything to say? Thank
No,
you for
no, that's it.
joining
You
us,
guys
by
said
the way.
everything. Thank you for even having me here. Like, I learned a lot just from being amongst you two and everything like that. But it was really, really good, conversation and topic, one that's really needed, especially to discern between good and evil, right and wrong, the Bible and Christianity. Much needed, very much needed, because the lines, they try to blur the lines, like you mentioned many times before. They sprinkle a little bit of truth, but they cover it with mass layers of lies. And so, like you
Mhm.
say, as doctors of the law, you have to go in there, put your gloves on, put your glasses on, get your scalpel, and surgically cut out all this cancer before before sepsis happens, and then boom, something bad happens.
Yes.
Overall, yeah, good
Well
good
said.
day, good day today.
And as was said earlier, thank you, Elder Shadrach, for having so much humility,
Amen.
for teaching us and listening to the God of Israel.
Thank
And
you.
again, thank you, our guests, for joining us today. And we hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Until next time, peace.
Peace.